Welcome to episode 106 of the Loane Hockey Podcast, where today we're going to be talking about some standouts from yesterday's matchup between Tampa and Toronto. And we talked about Toronto's standouts yesterday, but I want to talk about Tampa's standouts today. And even though Tampa didn't have the best game, they had some players who stood out and they had some players who looked really good. And I wanted to start with Braden Point, actually, and he had a goal in his game. And the Lightning, they lost 5-2. And he had one of those goals. And Braden Point, what is really noticeable about him is now he's their first line center. Now he has more ice time. Now he's able to play a lot more special situations with Stamkos not there. And he's filled that role very seamlessly because when Stamkos was still with Tampa in the last handful of years, Point was already turning into a first line centerman. And so with him turning into that, that allowed Point to really transition into that role very seamlessly. And he's been a really seamless fit. He's been an excellent fit there. And what really stands out with him and Kucherov on the line together is how Kucherov can feed him the puck in the wildest of scenarios, and he can make plays through very tiny seams, very tiny passing windows, and he has a really excellent knack for utilizing his vision in ways that defenders can't easily see these sequences open up, and they can't see and defend them that easily. And Point's really elite at being able to be a complementary guy to Kucherov because Kucherov can feed the puck and put him in areas where he has a really good position to score. He actually said in an interview recently how you have to be ready. Point said this specifically about Kucherov, saying you have to be ready when and wherever he has the puck on his stick because he can always make the play and he can always find a way to make a play that other players can't. And that's just testament to his ability and how well he can make plays with the puck on his stick. Nikita Kucherov is elite at being able to find seams, being able to thread the needle with his playmaking, being able to utilize his playmaking to open up pass lanes and be able to be a threat with the puck on his stick as well. Victor Hedman looked really good this game and always a standout. He always stands out every single game to me because not only because of his size, but also because of his range and how he can use that range in the ozone. And especially when walking the line laterally, especially since he's become a more prominent threat over the course of his career, moving laterally on the blue line, especially at that size, that's a real big asset to have for his size and be able to leverage that. And he's a guy that has a lot of range to his feet and how he moves his feet and how he's able to use fluidity within his feet. And his stride is very powerful and he can separate very easily because he has those longer strides and glides. So Hedman's a guy that walks the line effortlessly in the ozone. He's a guy that can quarterback your first unit power play. He's a guy that's essentially your number one defenseman who can play any single situation. And he's been so dominant for so long and he's been so good for so long. Mitchell Chafee is another player. It's a slight drop off, but he's another player that actually stood out on Tampa's side. And what I like about Chafee's game is he brings a lot of speed. And ever since he was playing in college hockey, I believe it was UMass, and he stood out with his speed and using his speed to forecheck to be able to create forecheck turnovers and be able to create separation with his feet and with his stride usage. And Chafee's a guy that uses his feet really well, and he's not necessarily the most skilled player, but he had a little bit more skill when he was in junior and going up through college and stuff like that. But now at the pro level, he's become and transformed more into a checking style player who can play a bottom six role. And he's really good with that because, like I said, he brings that speed element, but he also brings a little bit of skill and offensive flair to his game to be able to produce when necessary and be able to be a open pass option when necessary as well. So Chafee's a guy you notice him subtly. You don't notice him a ton. You notice him in very specific situations inside of the zone and being able to position himself. And he's a guy that, based on instincts in the ozone, very sound and very quiet in terms of how he's able to position himself because he can find ways to lurk away from the play and still be a passing option or available as an option or down low in the corner off the cycle, something along those lines where he can find ways to open up. And he has some hockey sense to his game, which really allows him to add those patterning elements inside the ozone. Cam Atkinson, very similar in terms of Chafee's game now because Atkinson is he's not a key offensive producer anymore, I would say. And ever since going from Columbus to Philly to where he's now, that offensive role is slightly diminished even more over time. And he's a guy that still can produce as a checker and with his speed and utilizing speed. And again, a guy who can bring some degree of skill inside your bottom six as a veteran player, but he's not going to bring a ton of it. But at least he does stand out in that sense. And he did stand out yesterday because of his speed, checking ability. And I noticed him inside the ozone situations, being able to create with his speed, create turnovers. And Connor Geek is another one I wanted to talk about because I really liked him to start the season. And he's a unique player because he's not the fastest. He's a natural center. He brings a lot of power in terms of his size and his raw ability. And he plays a power forward like style. He doesn't have necessarily a ton of separation with his feet, which slightly hinders his ability in some ways, but still a really skilled player. He's really skilled as a playmaker. I haven't noticed him too much as a shot threat yet, and it's going to take a little bit more time for him to adapt as a shooter in the NHL, I would imagine, especially as a center, where centers have a natural tendency to defer and delegate to teammates and make plays to teammates. So with Geeky is a guy, and I also love the pink visor on him. That's awesome, pink or purple, whatever it is. It's really unique. It stands out. But anyway, besides the point, Kiki's a guy who stands out defensively as well. I've noticed some defensive details and positioning that have allowed him to translate a little bit faster. And him being a junior with that size, that raw ability, that two-way ability, he was just dominating every step of the way in junior. And it's so interesting to see those guys and those type of players go back to junior every single year because they can't play in the AHL until they turn 20. So it's interesting to see how they dominate the league, how they adapt to the league as they get older, and how they continue to showcase their offensive skill and two-way play and become more of an all-around threat in junior. But Geeky's a guy you can rely on him defensively a little bit more, and throughout the season, I bet he's going to be relied upon more in defensive situations and settings, and might not happen as much right now, but certainly throughout the season, there's potential for that. And he's shown subtleties of being a sound defensive player as well. Jake Gensel's the last guy I want to get to, and Brandon Hagel kind of fits that same mold as Gensel. But with Gensel, I've really liked his fit in Tampa to start the season, especially since they lost Stamkos. They had to sign somebody else. Jake Gensel fits in really seamlessly because he adds speed to their wings, and you can have Anthony Cirelli move up as a center into the top six. And then you have obviously Braden Point as your top line center. So you add to the wings and you add speed to the wings. You add more checking ability to the wings. You add more skill to the wings. Jake Gensel's an all around producer, and he's a guy who can produce in any offensive situation. Playoff style player, which is another reason why I bet Tampa went after him because they can rely on him heavily in the playoffs. He showed a really good ability in the playoff run last year with Carolina and also previous runs with Pittsburgh as well, being able to win cups and stuff like that. Gensel's a guy who is going to be a force down the stretch for Tampa. And if he's able to maintain that consistency in his top six role and be able to be that all around player that they were hoping they would get in free agency, then he's going to be a guy that can be relied upon for a very long time in Tampa Bay. And I really liked his game. Actually, one more guy I'll get to since he's also new, and this will actually be the last guy we talk about, JJ Moser, who's acquired from now Utah and played last season with Arizona, had a really sound season, had a really good season playing more of a bottom four-ish type role. He's playing third pair, but also second pairing minutes on occasion, first pairing. And he could play his offside as well. So that was another big asset. But for Mosier, he's a two-way D. He's steady and defensively in terms of details, sometimes can miss his check a little bit or mistime his angles, mistime his stick checks and stuff like that. But with him, there's a lot of I've noticed a lot of ability in his offense and how he can control play and transition, and that's a big asset to Tampa's blue line and how they want to have puck carriers on their back end. And Mosier's a guy who you can rely upon in transition. You can rely upon in creating neutral zone sequences offensively. You can rely upon him trying to create in the O zone in general. And he's a guy that's very much a threat when he has a puck on his stick. It's just more a matter of how often he can be that threat as well.